All right, welcome everybody. This is the Finicity Mortgage Verification Services panel and Q&A. Again, I am Brett Moore, a representative here at Finicity. I have with me some pretty awesome people, I have to admit, much better people than I am, and people that you really want to hear from. This is, first of all, I want to introduce to you Lisa Kimball. She is our SVP of Product and Strategic Programs here at Finicity. Lisa, say hi.
Hi, Brett. Hi, everybody.
We also have with us Leighton Checketts, who is the product manager for Mortgage Verification Services Solution, which of course is the reason why we're here. And we hope as many people on this are with us and right from the beginning here, because I'm actually going to turn some time over to Leighton here in just a second. I want him to start this off by just showing us this very streamlined, simple, fast, accurate solution that's really driving mortgage verification for us. And so I want that this is obviously the feature. People want to see it in action. So with that, Leighton, do you want to share your screen and show us and walk us through this experience?
Yeah, for sure, Brett. Thanks, everyone. We're going to show you what the borrower experience would look like for Finicity's mortgage verification service. Before we jump into that, I wanted to let you know that the mortgage verification service allows for a flexible implementation to meet your needs, including, if desired, interacting with the borrower in one experience and getting all the information necessary to verify their asset, income, and employment. So in one interaction, you can do it all. So that's what I'm going to demo for you today. After the demo, I'll show you what the verification reports look like that are generated after the consumer experience is complete, and that can be submitted to the AUS platforms for automated assessment. Okay, can you see that okay, Brett?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. So the borrower will be sent a link to connect to Finicity's Connect application, either through your POS platform or through an email sent out from your loan officer. Again, there's multiple ways to implement MVS. So what we're showing you here is what the borrower will see, either on their mobile phone or on their computer. So obviously I'm on a desktop today, so it's a desktop view. The page they'll land on will help them feel comfortable with the data that they're sharing in this experience. So that's the point of this page. When they click Get Started, they're taken into the launch page, which tells them the tasks that they need to complete, the data that they need to connect to permission their data. And today I'm doing a live demo in our production environment. So this is really cool. And I'm using a test profile for someone that has 2 employments that need to be verified for their loan application. So it's, you can verify as many employments as necessary for the mortgage app. We need the current year and the last two years. So that's what we're going to be going for today.
I love that, Leighton. You're so confident that Leighton said, let's just do the demo in production. It's good.
Yeah. A little scary for the presenter, but I'm super confident this is gonna go really well. So the first thing we're gonna have the borrower do is kind of a choose your own adventure here. They click into one of these cards to verify their information. So for the bank accounts, which we need to verify their assets, right? Instead of providing PDF bank statements, we'll connect to their banks. We support thousands of banks. We have direct OAuth connections, and some of the top banks are listed here. You can see this experience I'm showing you is branded for a fake company called Acme Lending that we use for demo purposes. So whatever your brand and logo will show up here. You can also customize several things in this flow. So the borrower is able to search for their bank, and I can spell it right. And they'll log into their bank using their username and password. So I'm demoing with someone named Elizabeth. And so that's her username, and her password is going to be, type it in here. And we go ahead and aggregate, grab their account details. So the eligible accounts at that bank, that institution, is this checking, savings, and money market. They're able to select which ones they want to permission. And we've got their account information. They're able to review that account, add other banks, do whatever they need to get all the accounts necessary for their asset verification, as well as their income and employment verification if necessary. You click submit, and they're done with that step of the process. So super quick to connect your banks. Now you don't need PDF bank statements. So next is to verify income and employment. This is something we're really excited about. You click into here, and Finicity has direct API connections with payroll sources to be able to pull a borrower's income and employment data. We do this by using the borrower's SSN and date of birth. That's all that's required. It's pre-populated here since we've already collected it earlier on in the POS process. Click next, and we search for those employment records. So that's a live result there. You can see it took a second or two, and we've got their income and employment. So we look for the income and employment required for the last 2 years for your 1003 app, and review the details and select the employment. The borrower selects the employment they want to permission. The last step here is to make sure that we have all necessary employment details added. So I mentioned at the beginning of this that I'm demoing using a borrower that has 2 employments. So you can see we found one, and there's one more that we need to verify. This is where Finicity's VOIE, Verification of Income and Employment Solutions, is really cool. We don't say, okay, hey, if we didn't get an instant hit, you're done. We have other ways to verify their employment by finding direct deposit streams in their bank accounts. So what we'll do here is we'll say, hey, is there any additional employment? If they say yes, and they say, yeah, I have additional full or part-time employment, we come back here and say, looks like you have more to verify. Please connect to the accounts where your income gets deposited and upload your most recent pay stub. So what we can do is we digitize that borrower's pay stub and match that to their direct deposit transactions in their bank accounts. So we can prove that they have an income stream, and that that gets consolidated onto a report that you and the GSEs can view. So the borrower is able to go back in here and review their accounts. Maybe there's other bank accounts they need to add, and then they also get to go ahead and upload a pay stub, which I'm just gonna drag and drop to make it easier. Maybe. Right. Okay, you can take a picture if you're on a mobile device, or upload an image or paste a PDF. Click save, submit. You submit the information and generate the reports, and we are all done. So I paused a little bit to talk through that. You can see, man, super fast, right? Super slick. And then at the end, what we do is we have the reports available for you to view, and also for submission to the AOS platforms. So in this experience that I just went through, we'll have generated 3 reports: a payroll report, a VOIE payroll report, which looks like this. And it has that information for that instant verification of that employment that we found through the SSN date of birth search. You can see here it has some critical information like employment status is active as of date, and it's fresh as fresh can be, right? Because we pulled it directly from the payroll provider or the employer. And the other thing I want to point out here is up in the top right, we have the report ID that you can use as a reference for the report. We also have something called the portfolio ID. That portfolio ID is used as the reference ID to the GSEs and gets them access to all the reports. So one reference ID for all the asset, income, and employment reports. If I go back here, I can also show you what the pay stub report looks like. This is the pay stub with TX Verify reports. You can see we have down here the digitized pay stub. So we get that pay stub uploaded from the borrower and digitize it, and then we match it to the direct deposit transaction. So you can see this one, pay stub had a net pay of $14.23. We found that in the direct deposits, verified. Down here, you'll see the matched transaction from the direct deposit stream. And then lastly, we have our transactions report, which has their asset information. and also again a summary of the income streams that we found in those connected bank accounts. And like I said, submit that portfolio ID to the GSEs, and you get automated assessment and messaging from both DU and LP. And we're done. Turn the screen.
It's that simple. It's that simple. It's fast, as you mentioned, accurate. I think that's the piece that it's probably underappreciated. It's just the ability to be able to match this stuff, especially when you're talking about things like pay stubs. So being able to match amounts across different data sources, really, really important. And for people who maybe have joined late or are just catching and trying to wrap their head around this ability, just summarize for us what essentially just happened in that verification experience.
Yeah, so in that verification experience, we use multiple data sources. As required, we kind of waterfall the borrower through it to be able to verify their assets, employment, and income. So you can see in the screen that Brett's sharing here, we've got transactions data, we got payroll data, and we got pay stub data. And we can combine all that into one experience as necessary to verify their assets, income, and employment. So it's really flexible and gives you the greatest coverage possible for especially your income and employment verifications.
Yeah. Lisa, any comments you want to make on this before I hit you up for something a little bit deeper?
I think it speaks for itself, right? You've just seen an end-to-end consumer experience. We're getting a few questions about, what if the consumer doesn't have a portion? What if they don't have their pay stub? Just want to reiterate what Leighton started with, which is that we've got full flexibility here to embed into a lender's experience. So based on what the lender wants to do, we can enable splitting those experiences apart, allowing consumers to come back for enhancements or adding pay stubs, for example, to the flow. It's overall really customizable under the covers. But what we like to lead out with is literally if the consumer's ready to rock, then within 5 minutes, they've done full verification of asset, income, and employment. Which is just an incredible time savings for borrowers and a real value prop for lenders as well.
Terrific. And I know there's going to be additional questions on this, and maybe before we jump into the next piece, I just wanted to ask one more question for you, Leighton. People are going to have questions about the pre-close, and how is what's happening here relevant to what we can help out with on the pre-close?
Yeah. So, when you go to close, you want to verify a borrower's employment, and you don't want to have to call the employer, right? And so our solutions allow to fill that pre-close VOE so that you can waive the verbal verification of employment. Yeah,
that's huge, because we're trying to take any disruptions out of that process. So this specific this ability to come back and provide a very specific report that just shows that they are still employed, I think will be really helpful for lenders in this process. So that is available in this. And so with that, I want to jump into the next section. I want to have you, Lisa, comment on maybe just the sort of the bigger picture here. What's driving the need for a single source mortgage verification services solution like this?
Yeah, and I love that question, Brett. And it's actually been building, right? We've been thinking about some pieces or parts of this for quite a while. And as the last year or so has transpired, the need and the drive for it has just gotten ever more pressing. So I would say, first of all, we have consumer expectations. So consumers increasingly expect a very seamless, easy transaction. Again, now, even more than ever, we're used to transacting on a mobile phone. Like, I want to be able to respond to whatever is needed while I'm in line at the grocery store or wherever else, or from the beach if that becomes available again. And increasingly, we're hearing from consumers and from lenders that borrowers are choosing their lender relationships based on the ease of working with specific lenders. So just continuing to feel a big push from consumers who have learned to do everything remotely during this last year of COVID and quarantine. Also, accelerated by COVID is the need to really validate in real time the given different volatility in consumers' income. So things like prior year tax docs, credit reports, which have information that's months old in some cases, as well as databases that have provided stored and potentially stale data, are no longer really sufficient, given that consumers' income and the ways and places where they're going to work has been changing up so rapidly. So real-time, up-to-the-day information is really going to be the only way to get a clear and accurate picture of a borrower's current situation. And then finally, tons of difficulty in the legacy manual processes for income and employment verification. So, as you and Leighton were just discussing, Brett, the requirement to make a phone call to an employer within days of closing got so much more difficult last year when employers sent their workforce home. It was hard to find a person to answer that call. Lots of pieces of that breaking. So in addition to, spending time, lenders spending time trying to work on getting someone to pick up the phone, lenders have also been missing during this time the safe harbor of rep and warrant relief that's associated. So, just really getting at those manual processes that have existed for a long time, but have become even more painful during this last year. And we felt like it was really important in this respect to include a real-time refresh so that status can be updated throughout the loan process, but especially for that pre-close or immediately post-close refresh. And that process does not require a borrower or employer to re-engage. So it's just a quick, easy hit, and we're able to get that up to the minute information. So market demand, these factors all existed to a greater or lesser extent previously, but certainly the last 15 months or so has just accelerated and exacerbated some of those challenges.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought up this consumer expectations mixed in with all the other challenges that are going in, because I think enabling lenders to be more competitive is one of these underappreciated benefits here. Lenders have the ability to go in and do build some very creative experiences into their application processes, their customer engagement processes, and really stand out. And this is to stand, especially in a market when everybody's competing for, whether it's a refi, it's a new mortgage loan, it is highly competitive out there. And so we have to figure out ways to really stand out. So the meeting consumer expectations, they're more digital than ever. Give them a digital solution. This is their absolute expectation, and to do it in a real simple, fast, accurate way, and they don't have to deal with a bunch of other processes. It's a lot of headaches saved here. So, and I want us to jump. I really want us to get into some Q&A. So we're going to get into the Q&A, but before we do that, I want to cover off on a couple of things. First, we have a couple of poll questions. So Kevin, if you want to throw up the first poll question. And there we go. How many vendors? So if everybody will just take a quick 30 seconds to answer these questions, and then we'll jump into some Q&A.
Yeah, this is our chance to hear a little bit about what's actually going on out there, and how you guys are making your way through. It's challenging.
It's a diverse market. Everybody's struggling with different things. So it'll be interesting to see what's going on here.
First question, how many vendors are you currently using for your asset, income, and employment verification? So at the moment, 66% of the 46% reporting say 1 to 2, and 34% say 3 to 7. So keeping it relatively to a small number of vendors to kind of get through this. So that's what we're seeing.
That's interesting. I don't know if that surprises any of that surprise you, Lisa, Leighton?
No, not surprising. I think, as you mentioned, right, it's kind of going to be all over.
Yeah, and we know the pain, right, of dealing with lots of vendors. So that's one of the cool things about MVS, right, is that you can get all your asset income and employment needs met with one vendor.
Yep. Kevin, is there any feedback on number 2?
Yep. So here is what is holding you back from adoption of digital solutions. The number 1 at 45% is other business priorities. Number 2 is customers aren't tech savvy at 34%. Number 3 at 31% is it's difficult to change processes in my organization. And then 4 and 5 are a little farther back. At 10% is my technology provider doesn't support digital. And finally, my investors aren't on board at 7%. So change management seems to be the biggest one, followed by customers. So
yeah.
Well, I mean, other business priorities. I know we hear this. We hear this a lot. The early changes that were required last year. Not to mention that for all of us, just navigating what happened in 2020, which was crazy, with where interest rates were, the really strong housing market, plus try to figure out how to get business done from home. So we hear a lot about other business priorities, and we know you all are looking for ways to respond to your client base in a variety of ways. So that one really makes sense. I do think it's interesting that about 1/3 of people feel like their customers are not tech savvy, and I am pleasantly surprised really consistently on this front. Really what we see and what we're hearing from various industry studies is that customers, like your consumer base, they are more tech savvy than you expect, and they really do expect a smooth, easy transaction. So as we're out in market, we're starting to hear a lot of noise about just difficulty that individual consumers have, and they're asking about, why can't this be more streamlined? But maybe the real the real way that we can see this is just from some of our pilot lenders who implemented the adoption rate by the consumer and the excitement from the consumer who come through a process like this has been really significant. So I may challenge any of you who are feeling like your customers aren't ready to take a hard look at that and do a little more digging around that front, because we're increasingly finding that is not the case. They're actually looking for more, and it's hard to keep up with them.
Yeah, I think the most popular phrase is "that's it." That's it, from the customer, for the consumer who's out there doing this process. And the real advantage here is just the difference between what they expect going into it from the beginning. Who goes into a mortgage borrowing experience thinking, oh, this is going to be great, this is going to be terrific, and just the general expectation of having done in the past or whatever is people realize, or at least they believe from the beginning, that it's already a cumbersome process. So you have nothing but upside to surprise them and change and to sort of defeat their expectations there. So in a really good way. So
yeah.
We're going to jump into the Q&A, but before we do that, I wanted to ask Lisa and Leighton, y'all are really close to this. Leighton, you work with a lot of existing clients who have recently come on with Mortgage Verification Service, this MVS solution. And obviously it is encapsulated in this trusted experience. It's highly efficient, very fast and simple. You're getting the GSE acceptance, and you still have this CRA capability to empower your consumers. So what stands out? I mean, as you're talking to people in these conversations with lenders, what stands out? What are the things that are really welcomed in this?
Yeah, thanks, Brett. I mean, you mentioned the GSE relationship, and I think that is really key. And I know there's been some Q&A about that, some questions about that. So we'll respond directly to a few of those. But so Finicity has a proven track record of our relationship with both Freddie and Fannie, and work with them all the time. And all these solutions are accepted by them. And so it's really exciting. That's one key thing. Because I know there's lots of vendors out there that have really interesting products, but maybe aren't there with the GSEs. So that's a key differentiation point. The other thing that's really been successful with our lenders is we don't come at them with a one size force fit option for them for how to implement MVS. We understand that everyone's POS flow and their processes to integrate with these verification solutions will look different. So we have a really flexible implementation method, and we have a really well-trained systems engineering and client success team that will help you guide you through the integration and make sure that we implement it in the best way to meet your needs.
Terrific. Lisa, any thoughts on these before we jump into the Q&A?
I mean, I think they're captured really nicely there. And, I think just reiterating the early adopter lenders and partners that we have are absolutely seeing this. And it's really fun when it's always great when we ask them how it's going and hear this, but the really fun ones are when we get a refer back from a loan officer or from somebody at one of our partner clients who says, wow, this is pretty stunning. And one of the ones that came across that as I think about efficiency and effectiveness was just, hey, we didn't even have to really push the loan officers or train them around this. Like, it's so easy. It's sitting there. The borrower wants to come through this flow, and it like adopts itself. I haven't heard that before with respect to changes that are needed in the mortgage process, or certainly with loan officer to consumer interaction. So we think these are accurate, but we're hearing it a lot from our early adopters.
Terrific. And that leads us into Q&A. I'd really love for Lisa and Leighton, if you could take a gander at the chat and all the questions that are coming in. There's some really good ones in there. And Kevin, if you would, before we jump into additional questions, I just want to also highlight that if you don't get your question answered here, please feel free to come and connect with us on finicity.com. /mortgage, or also finicity.com/demo. And we'd love to help you talk through your own unique scenario. What is your situation and what's your use case? And try and figure out how this can be very flexible and help you with that. So
yeah, I'm glad you said that, Brett. We've got so many great questions. So I want to really thank this audience for thoughtful questions. And I'm sure we won't get to all of them, but we love to talk mortgage verification service. So so if we don't get your question answered here, please reach back out.
Yeah. Lisa or Leighton, is there a question you want to get to specifically before Kevin jumps in and make sure we get them all covered off for as many as we can?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few that I definitely want to get to, but I think Kevin, you're going to be curating that.
Yeah, so let's get started, and this will kind of clear out the backlog. And if your question wasn't answered, feel free to resubmit if you want to get an answer. So first, are you saying that by uploading a pay stub, AUS will read that and provide day one certainty? So what comes into that equation for us?
Yeah, short answer, yes. So all of our products in those reports that I showed you are eligible for day one certainty. So that pay stub, we call it our VOE pay stub with TX Verified product. It takes a digitized pay stub and matches it to the borrower's direct deposit transactions. That report can get automated AOS messaging and feed into the day one certainty program.
And so, related question. Sorry, we'll just go in order here. Number 3, how customizable is the branding on MVS throughout the process?
Yeah, so lots of options, and get into the details when we get into integration discussions, but logo, color, buttons, the top FIs you want to show up in that FI search screen are all customizable. Lisa, is there any other key ones you want to call out there?
No, I think those are the main. That's what we usually see as being important for lenders, right?
Yeah, cool.
And our goal, I mean, overall, the goal is that this fits smoothly and seamlessly into the lender's workflow. So the objective would be that your borrower is coming through, whatever your set process is, and we want to just be a smooth part of that experience and have that flow nicely. So that's part of why we want to handle branding as well as a variety of flows so that it just fits nicely no matter what your process is.
All right, thanks for that. Leighton, what sources do you pull employment or income verification from? So where does all this data really come from?
Oh yeah, I was really excited about that one. Can I steal it, Leighton?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. This, I just feel like we're kind of blazing new territory here, and it's pretty fun. So our strategy around these sources has been to essentially multi-source, because we think it's important that we can cover for any consumer, and increasingly they've got a variety of different employers, employment changes, and so having the ability to get this from a variety of locations is really critical to our core strategy. So first of all, we can identify and validate income and employment from our direct relationships with payroll data and employers. That one's pretty obvious, and I'm sure makes a lot of sense to people. That's done by having the borrower validate that their social and date of birth is accurate as provided. It's not via sending payroll credentials in and connecting that way. We also have the ability to find the income and employment data from the set of bank transactions, where we're leveraging machine learning models to identify recurring direct deposit details. And then, as Leighton has discussed, the digitization of a pay stub and matching that up with transaction detail helps us to kind of round out that whole picture. So you saw the 3 different reports. Essentially, any of those sources may be used in order to identify income and employment, and we think they are most powerful as a bundle or a waterfall, because again, our goal here is to cover all consumers regardless of the nature of their employment.
And Kevin, if it's okay, I know there was another question about payroll credentials, income and employment credentials, and it kind of relates to what Lisa just said, and I wanted to just make sure that it's highlighted. The borrower does not need to know which payroll provider their employer uses. They do not need to know their payroll provider login, username, and password. As you can see from the experience I showed, it's really fast, and we've had really high success rates. So we kind of looked into the model of payroll username, password, credential sharing, and found that a lot of borrowers weren't comfortable sharing that information or didn't know it and had trouble getting to it. So really high success rates by just using these direct connection methods that Lisa talked about.
Yeah, and just building on that, Leighton, I think that the thing that is core for us and is really powerful always, we want to ensure that there's transparency for the consumer and that they're actually permissioning the data. But we're always walking a line of, wanting to make that as seamless and easy as possible. So this approach strikes just the perfect balance for us, which is that it's visible for the consumer. They're well aware of it, understand clearly what they're permissioning, but they don't have to go through a password reset process or some kind of a lengthy look for their payroll provider or their employer.
All right. Next question. How many days or what period of time do you have to update during the loan process or refresh, right? Is it a certain set of days? Is it origination, Leighton? You have that?
Yeah. So we understand that it's one of the values of this digitized process is that you can pull fresh data when you need it. And so we allow for refreshes of these reports, default within a 60-day time frame. And so, yeah, all three of those reports are available for refresh.
And Leighton, while you're on that, will you hit on the 10-day requirement and how refresh and the ability to do another pull feeds into that requirement?
Yeah. So, right. Our reports. So we're talking. Let's talk about the AOS submission. So our reports that provide income and employment validation using transactions data and pay stub data. When you submit that to the AUS, you'll get a close by date saying, if you close by this date, the VOE is waived. And so that report is good. And if you exceed that close by date, you can refresh that report, get new direct deposit transactions that are showing up, and you'll get a new close by date. And as long as you close by that date, you don't need to do a VOE. And it's a similar situation with the payroll report, the VOE payroll report, where when you go to close the report, when you go to close the loan and do the pre-close VOE, you refresh that VOE payroll report and you prove that the employment's still active, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I think that one's a really important one, and maybe not intuitive, right? We've been dug into it for so long, but it's pretty interesting to think about. Understanding that the income and employment essentially has been validated. So what we're doing right at or near close is just making sure like we can still see that showing up, right? So this person continues to get paid from the employer that we validated as recently as this morning, or 3 days ago, or that I think is pretty interesting and is hugely powerful in terms of just recency of the data. And again, like borrower doesn't have to get involved. They don't have to wait and pull down another pay stub, or you're not chasing down your borrowers the day before close to ask them to send more docs.
All right. So just a couple, I think we're getting into details now. That one is answered. So how do we handle verifications where we don't get a payroll hit, Leighton? I know we showed the process, but what happens if there isn't a payroll hit, right?
Yeah, well, Kevin, I've just come back to like the data sources, right? We think this is most powerful as a bundle. And so, some borrowers will have a payroll hit. For some will find income and employment via the transaction data. For some will use a pay stub. And the real advantage for the lender is, hey, don't worry about it. We'll figure out how to get to it in a way that's really easy and streamlined for your borrower. So that's true, right? Payroll hit or not, we've got those other methods that are all part of the flow.
Yeah, I think that's part of the flexibility aspect that we've been talking about previously. So a lot of different, everybody wants to do it a little bit nuanced, a lot of different use cases. There's certain type of loans, everything. So, and that's the flexibility aspect of MVS. So work with us, engage us, and let us know what your scenario is, and there is a solution for it.
Yeah. Kevin, did you see this question about the online videos and what do we have up so far? Maybe, I don't know, Leighton, Brett, maybe that's for you guys. What kind of videos and examples do we have so far so that some of the folks on the webinar can share with their LOs?
Yeah, so we have similar walkthroughs to what you saw today that you'd be able to share with your LOs. We also have a wonderful trainer who can set you up with anything you might need, get questions answered. Obviously, train your team, train your leaders, train your LOs, whoever needs to kind of understand it better. Finicity is ready to get you what you need. But like we've said, so it can be a smooth launch, so you can get right up to peak adoption as quickly as possible and really see the benefits of this. So I will make sure in the follow-up emails you'll get a copy of this webinar, but we'll also have those quick walkthroughs that we have available already that I can link to there. So you'll have those to view. And as always, if you need something more, if you want something custom, right? Maybe you're wanting to see what this looks like in Encompass or something like that. We're always happy to help get that, as those things start rolling live, that we can certainly show you this is how it'll look for you there. So don't hesitate to reach out and ask, because we certainly have enough and are always willing to make more. So.
Kevin, thanks for bringing up Encompass. I just realized we didn't really tee that up. The ecosystem partners, tech providers are really important, obviously, to lenders. And so our goal there also is make it easy. Leighton, can you give us some details on how do lenders plug in that use some of the ecosystem providers?
Yeah. So that experience that I just walked you through, that Connect experience, will be built directly into your POS and LOS platform. So if you're going through a POS platform that supports MVS, today it's Simple Nexus, and in a few short weeks it'll be Consumer Connect. Your borrower, when they come to the asset section, they'll have the opportunity to to upload their assets digitally, and they go into Finicity Connect, and search for their bank accounts, and then we got their asset and information. Then with the income and employment piece, they'll come, they're just going through the POS flow, and Connect pops up as an iframe, and they go through the payroll and pay stub waterfall piece. So, and then with the LOS integration, Encompass, loan officers are able to review, and processors are able to review the reports, do the GSE submission, which is automatically populated, and also resend requests to borrowers, sending an email for them to hop into Connect and connect their information. If one of your POS or LS platforms that I didn't mention that you use, we'll work with them to get it prioritized, and so just reach out to us.
Yeah. Kevin, can I pick up a couple other questions that are in here? There's some great ones. I don't know how much time we have.
We've still got about 10 minutes left, so
okay.
Take away, Lisa.
All right. Prospect, I think this would be a borrower, probably, or maybe a lender. So what about concerns about inaccurate information? Right. Certainly in our existing toolkits for credit decisioning, that topic comes up a lot. And so here again, like one of the things I feel like that sets us apart at Finicity is the concept of the consumer at the hub and the consumer permissioned data. So having the consumer engaged, again, in a very simple and streamlined process, ensures that they are aware of and are consenting to permission the use of that data, which absolutely roots out inaccurate employment, make sure we've got the right transaction set. That feedback loop from having the consumer engaged in it as a part of the validation process is really key. And really drives significant improvement in terms of overall data quality for what gets submitted. So think about, instead of trying to correct something that went into the file that's wrong and trying to get some edits back into that, before it goes in, there's a view on it, and then yes, that's correct, and on it goes. So I think there's sometimes some concern about, hey, am I bugging my borrower by having them plug into this process, but really it provides a super powerful validation check that can just save a lot of time and energy on the back end. I think a couple of questions are coming up around the refresh, and I think it might be a good opportunity for us to hit on what I do think is another differentiator for us. So we're talking about this as a bundle. Part of that logic is just make it simple. So we've got a price for the bundle where we're saying we'll verify income, asset, and employment information through a variety of data sources. with the selection of this product, and that does include refresh. So I think Leighton did cover the refresh pretty cleanly, but the billing as a whole is just intended to be simple, predictable for you as a lender. Like having to piecemeal a ton of different parts together and figure out what that averages out to sounded complicated to us. So we just want to make it as simple as possible, and that includes making the refresh available.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Lisa. I think we find the best success with the lenders that implement all of these solutions, right? Where you get the highest success rates for verifying income and employment particularly. And so we want to make that as easy as possible from a billing and contracting perspective. So that's why we set it up that way. We can get in more details later, but it's worked out really well with our existing clients.
Yeah. Kevin, we've got questions about like how do we plug in? How do we use your services? That depends on kind of, are you using an LOS POS provider? Maybe some of the technical implementation details vary that way, but I would say just in general for this question, we would love to have someone talk you through like your specific situation and just how easy it could be to plug in. Yeah. I appreciate that question from Karun. What other services are we considering to accelerate the mortgage approval process? I don't think we're ready to speak to any specifics there, but think about ongoing partnership with key ecosystem providers, secondary market and investors, rounding out additional data sources, and overall streamlining the places where there is a need for borrower interaction, document submission, places like that, and more to come. We're definitely working on some stuff that will just make that process smoother on the whole, but nothing I think we're ready to share today. That's a real Finicity kind of question. Like, yeah, this is great, but what's next? What are you doing?
I know. I'm excited about it. I want to talk about all of it. I appreciate Lisa reminding me to hold back.
Always more good stuff.
There's always more, and more coming.
Feel free to reach out to us at finicity.com/mortgage and also finicity.com/demo. We have engineers and account representatives to talk about what your unique scenario is and figure out ways to help incorporate this into your workflows and your processes. So I'm sure there's probably nothing they haven't yet been hit up with, but who knows? We're always open to new challenges, but because everybody's always doing a little bit unique nuances. So.
Those tough new questions, though, Brett, they get our thoughts going on other solutions and other things that we could be doing. So if you got tough questions, bring it. We're happy to sit down and talk about them. Yeah,
it's the tip of new innovation. So we're open to new things. So please throw anything at us. It's we're always trying to solve for all those new problems. Terrific. Thank you, everybody, for participating. Great. Appreciate all your questions. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Leighton, for all your expertise and smarts on this. And thank you for holding back on all the new stuff that's great to come. So
we can't do it till you package it up for marketing.
That's right. But
huge thanks to the group of people who took some time to join us today, and for all the really good questions and interaction. That's been fun.
Yep. Thank you, everyone.